So this week, and I probably shouldn't say this, but this is my favorite Torah portion, not to denigrate the other Torah portions, but this is the Torah portion that even when you're at the very end of rabbinical school, you have to choose a section of the Torah that you say, this is the one. And for me, this is the one. This is Vayishlach. Now, before we get to exactly where we are in the Parsha, I think you got to look backwards. So just like a little spoiler alert, this is the moment that he crosses over that river and he wrestles in the dark and he changes from Jacob to Israel. But before this, it's the quintessential story of family Mishigash and how it passes from one generation to the next generation, that he's brought up in this family where he is taught, hey, you should go lie to your dying father to trick your brother to get the blessing. And so he does that. Turns out that doesn't work very well. And Esau's like, I'm going to kill you. And he says, I'm out of here. I'm going to start running. And so he's so afraid he just starts running away and he goes to start a new life. And of course, like with most things, usually the patterns we have in our families, we learned at home and then we pass it to our kids and we somehow find it again and repeat it if we don't fix it, and then repeat it generation after generation. So he moves to a family where he finds a father-in-law who lies to him and deceives him. And he ends up marrying the wrong person. There's even a midrash that says as he's going back to the tent, he hears la 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 la, which we usually think is like a celebration, but they're like Leah, 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 is what they're saying, but he doesn't understand it. In the morning he goes, oy vey, married the wrong person. 7 more years, and then he's got to get out of there, and he just keeps running. And he gets to the point where he is going to confront his very biggest fear, which is seeing his brother. And part of why he's running, it's not only about the past, because the past is chasing him, but the bigger thing that's happening in his head, and it happens to all of us, is that he's trying to predict the future. He's trying to think, what's going to come next and how do I prepare for it? And so it's the day before, and he thinks that his brother is going to kill him. He's going to war. And so he decides to do the best he can to predict the future and to try to control for it. So the first thing he does is that he splits up his camp into 3 pieces. And by splitting into 3, it's just like diversifying your stock portfolio. Don't put it all in one thing. He's like, so if they take that out, these other 2 will be okay. He goes, okay, well, I got the defense is now covered. But he thinks, maybe I should go on the offense. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send gifts to him. I'll send really nice things, and that'll make him feel good. He still has got that fear inside, so he prays to God, and he just begs and wishes that the future would be different than he thinks it's going to be. Now, part of life is just that crises happen. I think we all know that. When you're younger, you hope it doesn't happen, but as you get older, you realize you don't actually have a lot of control of the future. And oftentimes, the things that you predict, I would actually say not often, almost every single time, what you predict is going to be in the future, you are always wrong. And Judaism, it knows this. And it builds this deep into the tradition. It was Rabbi Jonathan Sacks that he points out that it's even built into the moment when Moses is interacting with God for the first time. That he goes up to God and he says to God, you have to tell me your name. And most people know this. And God says, Ehyeh asher ehyeh, which means I will be in the future, what I'm going to be in the future, which means absolutely nothing. And if you think about who Moshe is and where he is in life, he's sitting there and he's looking to leave God to head back to Egypt to confront Moses and to confront Pharaoh straight on. And it's as scary and as unknown as possible, and he's beseeching God. And God says, listen, the future, it's going to be with whatever the future is. Which is not very comforting. But he goes ahead and he moves forward. And it seeps its way into all of Judaism because foundationally, Judaism doesn't try to predict the future. It doesn't tell you the things that we don't know. There are other religious traditions that will tell you at the end of your life, when you die, here's what's going to happen. When people ask me what's going to happen after I die, I have to say, I don't know. And I've had people get really angry at me and say, well, that is not very comforting. That is not the answer that I was looking for. And they mean it. And I say, I'm sorry, I wish I could tell you, but I've never died. And I've actually never met someone who has died. Near death is near death. It's not death. And it would be intellectually dishonest to say, I am certain this is what is next. What I do know is what's happening in this world right now. Most of the Talmud is designed in a way that it's trying to deal and interact with the world that we're in. Most of the Talmud is business law. Because if you think about when you woke up in the morning, and until now, most of what most of us did is you work. And if you're not ethical on that, you're not ethical in the world. So let's get that thing right. We can talk about what comes next, but what I know is this right now. And so if you look at Jacob in this moment, the night before, he's trying to predict the future. He's doing the thing that we don't do. He's splitting his camp. He's diversifying. He's trying to affect by praying. He's trying to give gifts. And we do it in our own lives. Of all the things that we ruminate on the things we are afraid about in the future. We think about those conversations when that relationship is breaking. And if I just get the words exactly right, or that email just perfectly, then I'll save it. That's the giving the gifts part. That's the praying part. And the thing is, it doesn't really work. And what Jacob does, there's an argument by Rashbam, who comes from the 12th century. I think he's Rashi's grandson or great-grandson. And what he says, there's a fourth thing that Jacob does here, is that when he's sitting here the night before, he's done those other three things, but the fourth thing is, he's not actually going to meditate in the darkness, he's running away. He's just scared. And a lot of us do that. When we've gotten to the point we don't know what to do, we just try to run from the actual problem because we're so afraid of the future. And according to Rashbam, that's the reason he stopped by this angel, this person, this man. And it's at this moment that he actually goes into the dark. And if you look at the story, if you think about everything that he turns out to be afraid of, all of his future predictions, every single one of them is wrong. He gets them all wrong. None of them happen. And usually the Torah can be subtle, and there's other times where it just kind of blasts what it's trying to tell you. And it is subtle in that it says that he crosses over that river, and the name of that river that he crosses over is the Yabok River. But it turns out if you take the bet and you flip it, and you add in one more letter, which is the letter Ayin. If you have any Hebrew speakers here, Ayin is sight. Suddenly when I take his sight out, that's the thing that he's crossing over, and when I swap the letters around, it's actually Yaakov. He actually crosses over this river into pitch blackness where he can see nothing. And if you've ever gone in the desert in the pitch black and in the dark, and you hold your hand up, you can't even see your hand. It's so dark. And he's been spending his whole life trying to see into the future. And it turned out the moment that he couldn't see, the moment he had to stop predicting and try to prepare, and he's just in the darkness, and he's with everything inside of him. All the pain, all the fear, all the trauma of his earlier life, that's when he starts to wrestle. And if you think about when you've seen people wrestle, it's not a planned activity. Rather, the person does move A, and the next person responds with move B to move A, and then they go to move C based off move B. And it's a back and forth, and it's all about total presence and reacting to the present versus the future. And finally, right before the sun is about to come up, and he realizes that this thing, this person, God, whatever it is about to leave, and it says, I gotta go. He says, no, stop. And he's hurt. He's been wrestling. His hips are hurt. Everything on him aches. He's a Jewish guy. And he says, you cannot leave until you bless me. And why that's so powerful is that that's the lesson of this week's Parsha. It's not that he doesn't have pain from the past or pain from the present of what he's in. That's just part of life. You can't predict the future. You can't predict the crises that come, that when death comes sooner than you ever wanted it to come. The only thing that you can do is you take the pain, you take the experiences, and we squeeze it, and what he does is that he figures out a way to make meaning out of all of it. That's how you bless it. And you see, it's in that exact moment when he finally goes from Yaakov to Yisrael. And it's so important to us as a lesson that we change all of our names to, not the Jews, that's much later. We are the people of Israel. We hold within us in our story the ones who wrestle internally, externally, and reminding us that we got to be present right here, right now, and stop trying to predict the future. And the pain we have, don't avoid it. Our job is to try to make meaning out of it. And that's ultimately what this week's Parsha, what it's trying to teach us, is that wherever you are in life, sometimes it's in a relationship which is just crumbling, and we're running from it, and we don't know what to do with it. This part says slow down and just be here in the present. There's times when we're looking our own mortality in the face when we probably shouldn't be at this age, but we are. And this says you can't control it. All you can do is you be within it, and you try to find peace. And the way we find peace is by making meaning out of that wrestling. Ken Yehi Ratzon.